I worked out, and the Catch a Lift Foundation really helped us all. Everyone that was in my group had made great strides from it.
I feel good. And like Cal's program is a big part of that, and all that different stuff with the Coach's Corner and having coaches or having different things. Use all of it. Whatever you need, use it to get you to where you need to be.
Thank you for tuning in to the Catch a Lift Fund's Coach's Corner podcast. We hope you enjoy today's episode and will consider supporting the Catch a Lift Fund and the veterans we serve. Visit our website for more information about our programs at catchaliftfund.org. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis or suicidal thoughts, please call 988 or the Veterans Crisis Line 988, followed immediately by the number 1. The views and opinions expressed during the Coach's Corner podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the Catch a Lift Fund. The Catch a Lift Fund does not verify or warrant the truth or accuracy of statements made during the podcast, and statements therein are not to be construed as an official policy or position of the Catch a Lift Fund. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and nothing herein should be construed as health, medical, or other professional advice. The Coach's Corner is a place for veterans to connect, heal, and share their stories. I'm Melissa Luke, the host of the Coach's Corner podcast. I am a U.S. Army Iraq War veteran, coach, and program director for the Catch a Lift Fund. The Coach's Corner is sponsored by ID Technologies. I'm so excited to welcome and introduce to you all Ryan Taniguchi. Ryan is a 22-year retired U.S. Army veteran, Cal veteran athlete, and so very much more. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so honored and thrilled to be here, and and always excited to share our message and share our systems and process that we do as veterans, and more importantly, with the Cal program. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're so honored to talk to you today. Let's get right into it, Ryan. Okay. Ryan, when you joined the military in high school, were your parents reluctant to sign you on?
They were very reluctant, a small hesitation and not knowing the direction maybe I was going with me. I was the youngest of a lot of siblings. I took on a very important role in our family as like being the first. I was like the first one to join the actual service.
Were you?
And yeah, and I will more importantly, I was already leaving from a boarding school, so I was already gone from home for 4 years, and now I just kind of let them know that I was kind of entering a combat type of job skill, and oh, by the way, I'm entering the United States Army. So yeah, it was quite the experience for them.
Oh my gosh, I bet. What MOS did you enlist with, Ryan?
I enlisted as 11 Bravo for the Army. That's an infantryman, a grunt, as we all speak. Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you remember, Ryan, about training up as a young soldier? What stands out today?
You know what stands out is the epitome of the American soldier, and it respects to all of our service branches of airmen, and every branch that's out there. The American soldier embodied the toughness, the willingness to face challenges and go out there. And quite frankly, that's kind of why I joined. I got shown this little clip. I don't know if anybody can relate to, or we can relate to. Back then, it would just be clips of guys doing hard things.
Yeah.
Just guys doing tough, hard things. And at that time frame in my life, I liked adversity. I liked challenges. I liked to be up against that. And it wasn't a hard conversation to me have with that guy that enlisted me.
So that was appealing to you, that toughness, that ruggedness of what the Army was going to bring to you, what being an infantryman brought to you.
Yeah, growing up, growing up in Hawaii, my father raised me, a single father. Okay. I grew up in a lot of adversity. We weren't the richest family. We weren't the most important people on the block. And you learn to use that as an ability. Like we're going to go on and talk today. Like it was almost like a setback that you have to kind of climb back on and use that as a motivation to get going. So.
Ryan, talk to us a little bit. You would go on, you deploy multiple times to both Iraq and Afghanistan, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. How long would you be in before you would go on your first deployment?
Well, it was quite some time. My first deployment was until about 2003. That's about 11, 12 years, maybe even longer. So the build up for that, right? You watch all your brothers and sisters in service and every type of thing, engagement or had been happening or prior to you. I'm a post Desert Storm, so I can't really relate to that.
Right.
Some relatives. And you just get yourself ready, and you train, you do everything you can to make yourself ready. And when that time frame came, it was like it was you just joined, and you're like, wow, we're really gonna go somewhere, really gonna do something. Yeah.
If we can just back up one step there, because I'm kind of curious.
Okay.
In kind of looking at that 11-year period, right? Because like you said, it was a big buildup for that. What kind of changes, did you experience during that time, like in the military? Like how did you see things change, the way things were operating, coming from that period where it was, right, post Desert Storm, and then you're going to have 9/11 happen, and we really get those wars kicked off in Iraq and Afghanistan?
For me, I saw a heavy focus on actual training. Like, I think we did a great job on individualizing skills, perfecting individual skills during that time frame, and I think that was when for the Army standpoint, we started to look at restructuring the type of equipment we were using, the type of warfare we were fighting.
Right.
I felt that change. I felt ready. I felt ready for what we had started to experience, getting prepped into the later 90s, early 2000s. I served time in Korea. I saw different aspects of the battlefield, and I think we're doing a good job of getting ourselves, myself, the soldiers around me ready.
Yeah. Ryan, talk to us a bit about those deployments that you went on to Iraq and Afghanistan, if you would.
Yeah. So, it was I deployed about midway, about a little bit over the midway point of my career. And again, talked about being prepared. And you're never going to be 100% prepared. And I say this because the type of warfare we started to fight was much more than a two-dimensional you versus me type of warfare.
Yes.
And when I got into Iraq, it was different aspects of different types of just jobs doing as far as patrolling, going around, still finding out who the enemy was, still carrying out the mission that I went there for. But, it was long preparation, long times of just complacency, a long times of that. And then it was sometimes days of just constant engagement, constant operations going on. At that time frame, I didn't have to endure experience in my initial time frame much fatalities around, much tragedy. But then it slowly started to creep around where the people you're involved with, the locals, the actually more important. I talk about that a lot because I'm always, you lose a brother in arms and from the United States, but you start working with counter countries and what they're losing, their own people, and these villages that you see, it really starts to take a battlefield fatigue on you because you try to embrace the rapport in the building, and it's much more than just the soldiers to your left and right. It's the country you're trying to help.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed that in Iraq, and it carried on a lot when I was in Afghanistan.
I definitely want to hit back on that, because you had some very unique times, in Afghanistan, as an advisor to their army and such. But if you could speak first for us, Ryan, a little bit on, what were the differences kind of in those wars themselves? What was the difference, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, kind of some primary things?
For me, first, and I think I talked about the dimensional warfare. I felt in Iraq, it was defined of who we were fighting. we were against the regime there. They had the close. Towards the later part of Iraq, where you started to get a little bit of more insurgency and the undefined fighter, and that right there trickled on to Afghanistan, where you were fighting many different insurgents. You're going against the Taliban force there, and at the same time trying to work with them. But you had all these other, terrorism groups coming into Afghanistan that were, again, undefined as far as who they were, what they were wearing, and how would we approach them.
Ryan, talk to us a little bit. And again, we're dealing with multiple, wars, multiple tours here, but talk to us a little bit on both of those battlefield fronts, how you experienced rules of engagements changing during those periods of time.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, the rules of engagement would change. Sometimes it would have to change between days, depending on what was learned about the. We talked about TTPs, techniques, tactics, and procedures, and lessons learned. You had to go by that as a guidance along with your rules of engagement. And at that time, when it first started, it's clearly, whatever was set. And then you had to adjust to that battlefield of what you just learned, what you experienced in another town or village over. And in Iraq, it was easy to adjust. In Afghanistan, it started to become a different battlefield where, non-combatants were combating against you. And then you're looking at the rules of engagement. It's like, whoa, red flag, preservation, human life, peacekeeping, all of those things come into play. You're there. You're there as an ambassador to the United States and what we stand for, and you're looking at these set of rules and engagements. Like, well, how do I keep myself and my soldiers safe by still doing this? And that's I think was that rolling effect. Whatever was set in place, and how do I keep myself and my soldiers safe while still carrying out that mission? And that's what I use. I use that right along lines with the rules of engagement that was set in by our command.
What was it like? Kind of mentoring or training soldiers through those ever varying rules of engagement? How were you able to kind of navigate that with them in a real time way?
It was tough. And I'll go back to the first reason why it's that tough decisions, that tough situations that make tough soldiers. Now, when I say tough, mentally, physically, every aspect of being tough. And it was tough. You have to make those tough decisions on whether or not you're going to move forward, stand and wait for further guidance. But, a lot of times you're expected to make that on-the-spot decision on what was happening to you. And through that toughness, through those tough situations, I actually found it easier to get your soldiers to get going, motivated. Even the foreign nationals that I was working with, they clearly saw that the toughness was much more than Sergeant Taniguchi walking around with a weapon and heavy stuff. But they saw the confidence that he's been put in this situation before. I trust him to get me out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so valuable, and having an NCO like that, right? That's been around, that's seen a lot of stuff. That mentorship and that leadership is certainly second to none. Talk to us a little bit, Ryan, about again, 4 deployments, 2 different war zones. What was the time like for you in between them?
I'll be honest. It's a lot of numb time for me. Numb time, a lot of solemnness for me. I if I reflect on it, I actually don't remember too much.
Okay.
Because the operational tempo just stayed within me.
Yeah.
Long term, I think that put some different effects on me. Kind of caused some other issues for me and concerns. But my op tempo, my operational tempo, my lifestyle just kept going. Yeah. And when I was back, I never truly was back. My mind and heart was still there.
Right. Ryan, during your time in Afghanistan, you would serve as an advisor for their army. Would you talk to us a bit about that, what that means? Real time, what were you doing?
It was quite the experience. I was advising different types of foreign forces, something like I probably never thought I'd ever be doing, especially on that type of soil and we had already experienced in that type of country. But we were partnered up with the Afghan National Police, Afghan National Army, Afghan National Border Patrol, and we were quite embedded alongside them, carrying out, having them be able to sustain their own lifestyle, which they wanted from their government, and we were there as advisors to teach them, coach them, mentor them, develop them, and I gained some close friends and good relationships there. A lot of rapport was built between our units and countries. And I also I got to say that's where I also lost a lot of friends. Again, they weren't counted as U.S. facilities, but some of them I worked with for a year, couple years, and I'd grown to them, and they would pass, and I would probably take it harder because we had invested so much into them, they suffered fatalities just as much as we did.
Ryan, what was kind of because I would imagine there would have to be a big cultural divide, or how did you kind of navigate that with them? How did you navigate the cultural differences? How did you gain the trust of those in the Afghan military that you were directly working, to train up and mentor?
Well, Melissa, I'm glad you asked that question, because it was a hard process I saw coming into that job, because we came from a lot of us came from a background from the islands, from Hawaii.
Okay.
Which some of the similar lifestyles as far as culture, respecting cultural practices and that kind of stuff, very prominent in Hawaii. And I thought that was a big boost for us that was coming in that certain type of unit.
Right.
Dealing with a lot of the turnover every time, a military unit would come through, they have to restart that relationship with that host nation or that Afghan force. And I thought that was a positive thing. We shared a lot of our experiences and related to them. So we did so much great rapport building in our train up that it just influenced and enhanced whatever skills we had as island people. And we took that to the battlefield. We talked about cultural things we did and how we relate. We didn't say like, oh, we know how you feel, but how we can relate to what you're going through within your country. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for talking on that, Ryan. Looking back at that time as an advisor, what do you think was probably the largest obstacle that you faced?
The largest obstacle, was when there was, some tension with what was happening within, again, force replacement. People would come in and out of the country, and these people of that nation, they've dealt with this for, I want to say thousands of years, which different countries trying to occupy, people trying to help. And I think it could stir up a little confusion on their part. And so, it would set back or slow down that rapport building or whatever portion you're in on that to advise them. It would slow that process down because they're smart people. They were looking what's happening. Like, all right, command change, army changes, unit change. I lose this best friend I just trusted, right?
Yeah.
So you had the continuity of effort was awesome, to where we all start to learn, like, all right, yes, we're going to go one day, but we're going to do this right. We're going to make you ready for whatever comes for you. So I think that was a big thing that we always stuck with that. I remember writing in a book when I was learning from some guys in Afghanistan, the continuity of effort had to be in place. Yeah.
That's incredible. And this is a very, very broad brushed question on it, Ryan, but,
okay.
These men that you were working with and and working to build this rapport with, and like you said, trying to connect where you can with them, right, with anything kind of shared culturally that you could have find. What do you think their reception was to you?
At that time, I looked I looked a little different. I didn't have the
Yeah.
facial hair, the long beard, and quite frankly, it was culturally they didn't really respect the younger looking fellas, and
Okay.
and that's why, like, facial hair and longer hair or gray hair, those little simple things was advising for you. But and I think, yeah, they it was hard. It was hard to initially start being able to even talk to them, because they kind of looked at you like you're just a young fella, like, what
Yeah.
can you tell me about running this country that's been war torn for thousands and thousands of years?
Yeah. Oh man. Looking back at it now, Ryan, specifically working with those men in the Afghan army, what was the most rewarding part of that for you?
The most rewarding thing was when they were able to do things, like you wouldn't be able to stay with them 24/7, but you'd hear of an engagement or something that they had gotten into, a problem arise with them, and it's always rewarding to hear from it after. You're kind of like, why didn't you guys call it in or tell us about it when it happened? But then you think about it, like, no, that's why we're here. They just empowered themselves to react, respond, mitigate the situation. And honestly, that those things were very rewarding, even if it was something as simple as resupply and getting
Yeah.
their things on their own system and processes, and not having to rely on us to give them things. That was rewarding for me.
So could you kind of clearly see, Ryan, as you went on with that tour, months later, could you see them, becoming more independent like that? I would imagine it's almost like building blocks,
Yeah,
maybe. Like, could you see that and feel it?
at my level, yes. Yeah, at my level, yes. I saw it. I saw that they had young people, they had young leaders, and they wanted to sustain their country in a good way, and keep with what they had. And I
Yeah.
think they started to adapt a lot of our processes and systems and made it their own.
That's incredible. Thank you for talking on that, Ryan. Um, so you would go on to serve 22 years and retire from the military. Congratulations on, making it that many years. It's absolutely tremendous. And thank you so much for your service to our great country. How was it though, Ryan? 22 years of your life, multiple deployments, war zone. What was it like to close that chapter after all of those years of service?
Tell you, Melissa, it's probably one of the hardest decisions I had to make, and I clearly had developed a lot of different types of uh, concerns within my life, my lifestyle, and the way I was just living my lifestyle. And it became unhealthy for me. And I was always mentored by a good leader. They said something, a very simple line, when it stops becoming fun,
Yeah.
and you need to kind of step aside. And fun for me was being able to wake up every morning, support what was going on, supporting myself with a clear mind, a clear head, and quality of life was important. I think because of everything that I experienced, engage with in the military, throughout not just the combat tours, throughout your service, you experience way different types of lifestyles, countries, and people. I there clearly was developing a lot of type of issues that I need to get addressed, and it wasn't fair to the rest of my soldiers around them that they watch me kind of still try to get treatment and help, while still trying to lead them. Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, talk to us, within that transition into that civilian lifestyle, at what point would it be where you would head to the VA for assistance?
I tried to transition quickly into the service of helping people, coaching, and mentoring when I retired. Served as a teacher and a coach, and I clearly saw my reaction to the civilian style of handling problems and communication. and that became adapting to that became issues. Sleep became worse, anxiety set in, depression set in. Everything that you got told that would happen started to happen to me.
Right.
And I felt very overwhelmed.
Ryan, talk to us a little bit about that. And you touched on it there, right? So, I mean, post service, you took a job as, a strength and conditioning job. You took that time teaching. Did you find, or, was the intention there because the skills from the military were, were transitioning kind of to those careers, or what was pushing you into those directions?
My initial, the way I am, I guess it was things that I developed as a young individual, because again, I grew up independently and I know what help is and service is. Throughout my time in the military, again, going all over the world, helping people, serving people, and I still had that in my blood. And I knew that wherever there's a need, I'd like to be there to help. And that's what motivated me. I had a strong background on being physically fit, a strong background and working with athletes and with motivated people to getting to the next level. So that was a good, easy connection for me to identify with. What I didn't see coming was the drawbacks of I would be living on this operational tempo that I was trying to carry over from the service. But again, it would still take time away from me from getting the necessary medical, mental, physical therapy that I needed.
Ryan, sitting here today, knowing what about the end of your military career, this transitional period, that you went through and that all of us go through, right, in some way, shape, or form. What would you say to any veterans listening who are struggling to reach out for help after returning home?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is to the young person and soldier that's out there, you got to take time. You got to take that time to decompress and take that time to get yourself, do a little bit of self-awareness. And you're right. You got to reach out because you're not going to identify it by yourself. As stubborn as we are, I'm probably the biggest of patient and stubborn and wanting to do everything independently. You need help. There is a lot of help out there. You need to reach out. You need to accept when someone's reaching towards you. And that's why I think that's the biggest one with someone, because there are organizations, great people out there that reach out, and we just tend to push them off because we have this broad toughness, that we created a good part, but it's also that toughness you need to accept that what does toughness looks like for me now that I'm retired is I need to get myself healthy.
Ryan, I want to take us back here a little over a year ago. So like many of our brothers and sisters, you felt a lot of emotion watching the United States withdraw from Afghanistan. Will you speak on this and how you felt knowing you had once stood at that very airport, right, where they were broadcasting from, showing that withdrawal?
I was hurt. I was very hurt. You'd spent and invested all this time in doing what you did. It took a toll on me. It took a toll on me psychologically and mentally. And I had to step back. I had to reach out, and that's what I did. I reached out. I called some friends, some old buddies I live with, some of my support and resources that I have around me, and talk it through, because the frustration became anger, and the anger never turns well when it's not, in a controlled environment.
Yeah. Was that, talking to other vets, reaching out like that, would you say that is what kind of brought you the most peace out of that situation? Or how have you been able to kind of, and I guess I don't want to imply either that you are at peace with it now, but was that what kind of put you into just kind of more even footing with it, Ryan? Or, I'm not even really sure what to call it.
Yeah. I grow we all grow and learn every day. I've been so receptive to every type of resource and support out there. And I'm clearly at peace. I I think there's so much conflict in the world that we gotta be that strong soldier that we was in the service, and it's gotta carry out. So, from one engagement to another while you're in combat, you got to be able to respond, reflect, decompress, get back out there. Same situation that I took with this. I just different ways of dealing with it. Now, this was something I had to watch happen and unfold, and I took that same type of mentality, and I talked it over with soldiers. I talked it over with support resources, and you don't let it go. You just let it be for what it was. You're just hopeful and grateful that you are still part of that process.
Yeah.
And you're still hopeful that there's still great people that you did work with that still can embody from right from wrong and still want to make their country a better place,
Yeah. Ryan, if you don't mind me asking, and taking this into account too, because like we said at the beginning of this kind of line of questions, like it had a profound effect, I believe on anyone that was a 9/11 warfighter, regardless if those wars were in Iraq or in Afghanistan. But so reflecting back over that career and everything you've seen during that time, right through the withdrawal. But when you look back on your tours, your time of service, what are you most proud of today, Ryan?
I'm most proud that I could serve and give back to not just like the uniform American people. I was proud that I could be an ambassador to our way of life. I was so proud that I could take that small town guy that grew up in a small city in Hawaii and take the challenges and adversities that I overcame, took it over to the service and embodied that type of mindset and still creating that environment for everybody around you. I was always told that, you're a good guy to be around. Like soldiers would want to follow me because what I embodied. And I take that good energy, even when I train athletes now, they like doing that because coach embodies this professionalism, this toughness, this courage. So I was very proud that I could take that small town person going up through all the hardships of growing up in life, through all the preparation you do in service. And every time I did something, I was just, not just that proud American, but that proud person that individualized that you took all these values and you did something with it. And I tell you what, Melissa, and it had a lot to do with even me still carrying and paying. Like, I know you guys have this program. We have this program in Canada, we're paying it forward. Like,
yep.
I'm not ashamed to say that I live every day with PTSD and several other disabilities.
Right.
But I do every day is I take those things and I create abilities with them. And you find that way to still give back and still be healthy within yourself. And I think that's the balance I have for everyone to understand that you're going to have to live with a lot of them for the rest of your life. But you're going to have to make that choice. And there's people to help you make that choice on creating a healthier lifestyle, not only for you, but for other veterans around you.
What's the internal drive, Ryan, to continue to grow, to continue, like you said, dealing with various injuries?
Melissa, I've probably been at the darkest times in my life. I did some probably things that I just don't, that wanted to do myself, take myself out of harm's way or putting myself in danger. I saw it happen to peers and soldiers around me that they took their own life. I lost a lot of things. I've been down and out. I've been in areas where I felt sorry for myself, depressed. I don't want another soldier to ever have to go through that. I don't want another human being to have to go through that. I coach people. I try to create an environment where they're challenged and they grow. I've coached soldiers. I continue to work and talk to soldiers because I don't want them to ever have to go through what I did. And sometimes I put myself in there because I just didn't feel like I was worthy to still be around, And, it's for me, it's still living proof. Every day I get up and I'm just thankful that I'm alive. I'm thankful that I have the things I have around me, family, friends, support. And I want soldiers to know that, like, even if it's me, if it's their coach, if it's a simple resource, that there's people out there, there's genuine people out there, that there's nothing attached to us, but just we know we've been there. We want to console it, and we want to confide with you, and we want to help you.
Thank you for speaking to that, Ryan. I want to shift gears a bit here with you, and I want to talk about fitness, which is a huge passion of yours, and then, kind of roll into Catch a Lift and where that has came in. Ryan, today you hold several certifications and degrees. What has fitness done for you in your recovery?
Well, fitness has always been at the top spot, and it's kind of engraved a spot within my life. And I want to say even post military service, because I've always been a physical person, had a reputation throughout the military service of being very elite in my fitness, physical fitness areas. And post learning of all these things I was going to deal with mentally and physically getting out of the military, I wanted to gain a better understanding and appreciation of what was happening to my mind and my body as I went through all these things that people were telling me was disabilities for me. So I seeked out some support and assistance. Apparently the VA has a great program for veterans trying to recover to getting education and work. And I sought that out, and I went from having a high school diploma when I left the military to going through personal certifications, strength certifications, associate degree, bachelor's degree, now on my master's in human performance degree.
Oh my gosh,
and it doesn't
tremendous.
stop there, because you as a person evolve. Everybody's evolving around us.
Yep.
And my willingness and my curiosity to always well, how can I get better? Because I want to get better to help someone else get better.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous. Ryan, talk to us a little bit about your individual fitness. There's a million different ways to be fit and to find, find passion in fitness. What is your fitness passion? Talk to us about that.
My passion, again, stems with a lifestyle. I think when I talk to people, you have to be willing to make it a part of your lifestyle, not change your lifestyle. Make it a part of your lifestyle with what you have around you.
Yeah.
I came from a huge CrossFit background to just taking, not even taking the organizational or the big product name of CrossFit, but taking about of my way of functional fitness, creating fitness programs for myself and others around me relating to what they had and what they were doing in their life, and making that the new healthy, and not worried about exactly the appearance of them, but more how they felt.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give an analogy. I think people are like, I want to weigh a certain way. Well, how about let's not worry about how much you weigh and how you feel in the clothes you wear, right? Yeah. So getting people's mindset to shift of just, I mean, it's great to have a great physique, whatever. But if you're not eating, or you're on this crazy diet that you can't enjoy yourself, then what is fit for you?
Yeah.
And having athletes, players, and even peers understand that fit, the total fit person, mind, body, everything encompassed. It's gonna look like different for everyone.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
You have to embody it. Like I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm getting the necessary help. I'm eating well. I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I'm still able to live a decent lifestyle within this fit life I have.
Ryan, so like you said, I mean, fitness has been a huge part of your life for a long time. Coaching, mentoring, soldiers or people on the outside has been a part of you for a long time. How has your kind of approach or philosophy to fitness changed throughout the years? What are some of the big things that have changed or shifted for you?
Well, first and foremost, I'll give them testimony. It saved my life. It saved my life. It saved my life from mental stressors and mental, illnesses that I had. And that's, I'm not even touching some physical abilities that it helped me out with, but I'm just talking about the mental aspects of what it did for me, and what type of how it worked for me. And you get the response like, well, I'm not into like that your big workouts or everything, but it doesn't take much for that aspect of that mindset to be challenged or to be against a little bit of resistance.
Yeah.
And putting forth, especially for a veteran, like we're all there in some point of job, no matter what job we did, we were all faced with some type of challenge while we were there. And I think we all can recollect of something we did in our service that, when I came over that challenge. So when I approach this, I let them know from testimonial, self-experience, it changed my life. It saved my life. Didn't just change my life. It saved my life. And it continues to give me fulfillment through me going through a workout and me supporting someone with a workout or a lifestyle decision that they got to look into, some type of wellness for themselves. How to look at nutrition in a different type of view. You offer these people around you all those tools and resources that I got so motivated to get educated on. I mean, that's big fulfillment for me.
Thank you for speaking to that. Ryan, for anyone listening that doesn't know where to begin on a fitness journey, again, a very broad question, but if you could give them a little advice from Coach Ryan, where do you begin? How do you get going?
You start with yourself. You start to say, well, am I willing to get help? And you got to be willing to get help. And I would start with your first VSO, your first line veteran service organization out there. We got great ones out there. I got introduced to Catch a Lift from another veteran service organization.
Did you?
Because they knew the type of person was I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, and that's when you think of like the car salesman that doesn't want to just sell you a bad car, but he wants you to have the right car, right? So I already currently a proud alumni of a veteran service organization in which I work for. But they resourced me out. They said, you know what? You're a great fit to work even amongst Catch a Lift. Here, try this out. And I just went from the coaching program to the equipment to pit. I've been doing so much, and after this, I'm going to figure out how I can get more involved with it, because it's another aspect. So, that veteran, that person that's out there, how do I start this? Well, you just quickly look what's around you, what's available to you, and think about your lifestyle. Think about that first period within your lifestyle that made a change in your life, not just physically, and start there.
That's tremendous. Talk to us a bit, Ryan, about your experience going through the Catch a Lift Wellness Program.
I had gotten the just top-notch service and support. I had some coaches assigned to me, and I thought it was going to be like, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be online, and but the constant feedback, the constant motivation, the constant contact, and that's big for a veteran. That's big for people that are trying to get back, even just maintain the constant. Because we, sometimes it's hard for us to be it's very hard to hold ourselves accountable. Even coaches need to be coached. That's what I've always told people.
Absolutely.
Even coaches need to be coached.
Absolutely. Yep.
Leaders need to be led, right? So we need that. And I found that niche immediately with Catch a Lift, the coaches program, where I was doing these workouts. I was doing great with the workouts, but I was also being held accountable. I was being talked to as a peer, not talked down to or talked at. I was talked as a peer. I got offered all these great resources that I use every single day in my current life. And I've just been having a great experience going through that. And again, I took it upon myself to utilize these things to reach out to fellow veterans. Not just, hey, join Catch a Lift. No, I took whatever I learned here and developed, programs and helped people get on their way to living that fit lifestyle.
Yeah, that's absolutely tremendous. Ryan, you were a recent recipient of home equipment grant from the Catch a Lift Fund. How has having home equipment in your home affected your lifestyle?
Amazing, life-changing because, again, very open to say there's some times where I get built up and I can't deal with the stress of the world. And Catch a Lift has enabled me and empowered me to still work through that by having the solemnness of my own home and being able to work through that adversity and challenges and get myself right in a safe, controlled environment. And I wouldn't have been able to do that. I mean, it's quite the gift and quite the blessing that they provided me with, and I'm very thankful. And I use that. I use that a lot because it, again, creating that lifestyle. I think a lot of us that go through a lot of type of mental health awareness or issues or concerns, the public setting's just not the place to get back or get yourself right. So,
Ryan, I have one last question for you today.
Okay.
What does being a catch a lift veteran athlete mean to you?
It means to me that you are a soldier that has taken that step in embodying what the Catch a Lift program was meant to do, as far as empowering yourself as well as others around you through multiple resources and programming. So, it means that you have a responsibility. That's what it means to me. After going through the program, you have a responsibility to yourself and you have a responsibility to others around you. When I had read about how it got started and the slogan, "Let's go catch a lift," that's important to me. That's important for me to not walk past a problem, walk past another veteran, not walk past a peer. And it's, the kind of utilizing, quoting like that catch a lift and what our organization stands for. Like, come on board. I got you, buddy. Let's go. Let's figure out what's going to work for you. So that's what it means to me. Using that mission, using that, how this organization got started, and that's what it means to me. Like, to get other people to join in what created a great opportunity for you, and keep paying it forward.
Wow, Ryan, I don't even know what to say. Tremendous story, tremendous words from you today. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking so openly with us all. Greatly appreciated. We're so honored to have you in Catch a Lift, Ryan. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week for another episode highlighting one of our incredible Catch a Lift Fund members. Special thank you to Ryan for sharing your story and your light with us all today. Thank you so much, Ryan. We're so grateful for you. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday live at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for a chance to win Cal swag and to chat with your brothers and sisters. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave us a review on your favorite streaming service. Until next week, keep it real and stay Cal strong.